Therefore,
16 classes.
ladies first.
Good morning, how are you?
We realize that the good Senator Risch is not here in the state right now. He's handling important business back in Washington, and that's good. That's where he needs to be. We see what's going on at the southern border right now with Title 42, certainly in the news, and that's what prompted our visit here.
Sure.
And so the goal of our meeting today is to perhaps lay the groundwork for a future meeting when Senator Risch is in town, where we could come in and explore options over and above and beyond the efforts that he's already made to help secure the border. So we're familiar with what's happened recently. We follow the news very, very closely. This particular group has a standing meeting every Tuesday night. We've met every single Tuesday night for the last 3 years. And we talk about political issues, but instead of just sitting around and dooming and glooming, we attend events, we vet candidates.
And Scott, that's the Council of Patriots?
The Council of Patriots, TVCOP, it just kind of rolls off the tongue there, Treasure Valley Council of Patriots. And we vet candidates and we get involved. The main issue, I mean, we have a lot of problems in this country. They're not easily solved or not quickly solved. But the border crisis is an exception to that. This is a self-inflicted wound being perpetrated on the American people by the Biden administration and all their minions. And you know, we appreciate what Senator Risch and Crapo and Fulcher and so on have done, and others. But we think it's going to take more than just signing a letter to the DHS security chief, Alejandro Mayorkas. It's going to take more than letters to him to solve this problem. And that's what we are requesting a meeting to discuss, to explore options over and above and beyond writing letters to the regime known as the Biden administration. They are not interested in securing the border, and everything that they're doing is just semantics. And I know that you can't wave a magic wand and solve this problem. It's a complex problem. But we think as constituents that we should have direct input to our senator to say, what about this? Has this been looked at? Can this be tried? What are the roadblocks to it? And that's what we're looking for. And I hope that we can accomplish a face-to-face meeting. We don't need 70 people in a room, but we'd like to have a little bitty meeting or a town hall at his earliest possible convenience. So that's why we're here today.
We're tired of people telling us to play the long game. It's a chess game. They've been playing this chess game for 40 years, and it's no better results.
We're tired of the status quo, and we want people to take action, meaningful action. And again, we don't think it's unreasonable to have a face-to-face meeting. We haven't had that opportunity, and that's why we're here. So what do you think?
Well, appreciate you all coming in. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Sure.
I mean, as I think you know or see, Senator Risch is very concerned, particularly about the border.
Sure.
It's something that he, in his capacity as the lead Republican on foreign relations, wrote an entire report on what was going on there. He introduced legislation with items like extending Title 42, building the border wall, ensuring minimum staffing levels, all of these items that would actually address what was going on there. In addition to signing on to a number of other pieces of legislation, because you're right, writing letters is one thing, but it's not the only tool in the toolbox. I'd really be interested to hear in the conversations that your group has, what ideas have really percolated or risen to the top in terms of practical solutions to move things forward.
But Scott, to address your main point there, of course, we can try to set up a meeting here for whatever group you have sitting in this room with Senator Risch.
Most of the people in our group have moved here from somewhere else. I'm from New Mexico originally. My hometown, Albuquerque, all of my family is still there. I visited there about a month ago, and I barely recognize the town that I grew up in. It is literally become a third world country. It's worse than Los Angeles. The crime in Albuquerque is off the charts. I wouldn't go anywhere in Albuquerque without a weapon in broad daylight. They will break into your car if you leave anything in sight. And this is not isolated to one part of the city. Now, granted, it's only 3 hours from the Mexican border. And It doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. And even though we're pretty far away from the southern border, this problem of the invasion affects Idahoans directly.
Absolutely.
And even though we only have 2 million folks here, which is not much compared to other places, we don't deserve less representation. And the problems, I don't need to go into the child trafficking and the fentanyl and all the problems that go with it. You guys are fully aware of that, as are we. What we're interested in is putting together a list of ideas specifically, and we'll be prepared when we have our meeting with the senator of what actions we'd like to see explored, what actions can be taken. Now, we know there's limitations to all of these things,
Sure.
But let's be realistic. If we don't take a different course of action than what we have, we are going to lose this country more than we already have. And that is a violation of the oath of office that our president took, and every single member of Congress, and every elected official in the state of Idaho. I'm not trying to be critical of Senator Risch. God bless him. I know that he is trying, and I know his heart's in the right place. But it's not working. There's been 4 million people come into this country probably in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. What's the population of Idaho? Just under 2 million. What's the population of the Treasure Valley? I don't know, 750, 800,000 people. That many people are waiting today at the southern border to come across. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Particularly today.
The news, that's why we're here today. It's not an accident we're here. The news media just puts a complete spin on all of this. None of this is news to you all. But we are interested in coming back and sitting down and saying, okay, we've got 10 items that we want to take a look at. Many of the people are coming here. Some are good people, some are not. But I'll have friends, sort of friends. I don't have a lot of Democrat friends, but I have a couple. And they will tell me to my face that these people do not receive federal benefits in any way, which is a bald-faced lie.
Yes, it is.
Okay? And so that's one example. If you cut off the benefit trail going to these people, a lot less of them would have an incentive to show up here. With the current inflation and all that's going on with the economy here, these people that end up in the United States of America, they don't sleep in tents and vans down by the river. They end up in apartment buildings.
Yeah.
They end up in hotel rooms in New York City at taxpayer expense. And it's got to stop.
There are Hispanics in this country that are legal. They came in here legally, and these people they're letting in, they're going around, they're
And they're
going
mad
ahead
about it
of
if
the
you talk
line.
to some of them.
Oh, yeah.
There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And it's not just
And well,
Hispanic.
we're just under 2 million people. You wait in about 3 or 4 years. We're going to be probably closer to 3 million once he gets all the buses warmed up to send these
That's what
people
my
across the
concern
country.
is. Because I came, because my concern was like here in Idaho.
Yeah.
I don't want, because I used to live in New Mexico, Albuquerque too as well. I worked with this lady and she's Spanish and she didn't care what her husband did. But she knew he was in drug dealing or something because he'd go back to Mexico, come back, go back, come back. And I'm like, really? You don't want to hear that. And you hear other people say, well, they get a social security number, but they stole it from somebody else. And it's like, I don't want to hear these things,
Yeah.
but it's happening and it's factual. It's not something, you want to hear, and it's happening in our area here in Idaho. And that's what's making me mad.
I myself have seen these individuals arrive in Eagle, Idaho, in a bus, and get out and go inside a Wells Fargo bank branch that I used to bank at, and cash checks. And I know the difference between a migrant worker, a farm worker, and somebody that's just been bussed here straight from the southern border at taxpayer expense. And there was 15 of them, and they were all cashing checks at Wells Fargo. They were not Wells Fargo customers. And when I demanded answers from Wells Fargo, all I got was a bunch of nonsense that, oh yeah, we have an agreement to cash their checks even though they're not Wells Fargo customers. You're right. And I was told that by the branch manager, and I closed all my accounts and moved my banking business somewhere else. Another example I'll give you is somebody sent me during the campaign a couple of pictures
2008.
of unmarked white buses dropping people off in Nampa. 2 busloads of folks, mostly Hispanics, dropped off in front of a Dollar Tree store, just put off the bus with their suitcases and everything, and every one of them has a manila folder with cash money in it that they were given when they came into this country, and they're on their own after that.
There was a line buses dropping off illegals to stand in line for hours and hours to get a driver's license. That impacts every American waiting with that system. And the Department of Motor Vehicles are overwhelmed by this every day. But what's really aggravates me now is we had a meeting at the Ada County Republican meeting, monthly meeting 4 or 5 months ago, and we had 2 state legislators that wanted to pass a bill to give illegals driver's license. And that we asked them why. He said, well, my ranchers and farmers need this because the people that work there can't move around from the ranch. So he just admitted that his ranchers and farmers, people giving him money,
How much of
is
their
breaking the
workforce
law,
is-
and they want the law to fix where these people can move off the ranch. If you give these people illegals licenses, they're required to have insurance. And they have insurance the day they get their license. 3 days later, it's canceled. And there is a Pacific insurance company in California that would charge them for a 3-month policy, and if they canceled in a month, within 3 days, they got only charged for 1 month. So they're making hand money over fist by doing this. But then when they got in an accident, they got in the car and they ran because they didn't have insurance. And so I'm seeing daily, I think I saw 3 auto accidents where I saw all 3 of the people get out of the car and run because they didn't have insurance. Or they take the car and go a block and park it on the side of the road hoping they can save the car because otherwise the car would be impounded and they'd lose the car. What we would like to see, I think, is having our elected officials out on the Congress's walls yelling and screaming at the top of his voice to do something.
There's all kinds of tools available to put pressure on the Mexican government as well. The amount of money wire transferred from the United States south of the border, not exclusively to Mexico, but primarily, is in the billions, tens of billions of dollars. That is definitely something within our control. There's economic levers, there's military options, there's travel restrictions, there's financial restrictions, there's all kinds of things that can be done that nobody has gone to that level yet to say, okay, we need to take a serious look at that. Our current system of pushing back against the Biden administration is woefully inadequate. We are just getting railroaded as Americans, and it's not right, and it's got to stop. And I expect people like Senator Risch and Crapo to be leading that charge, not to be just signing letters to Mayorkas. That's what's been done in the past. There are people in Congress, it's a short list, there's a handful of people, less than, you can count them on 2 hands, that are trying to lead this charge. They're young firebrands, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. Our founding fathers were people just like most of the Idahoans that live here today. They would not be standing for this invasion, not for 1 stinking minute.
I agree.
And we need leadership, and that's what we're asking for. My friend Yuri knows of what we speak. Yuri grew up in Ukraine, family's Ukrainian, has many friends and family still there. He grew up under a communist system. Now thankfully he's lived in the United States for well over 25 years as a legal citizen of the U.S. But he knows of what he speaks. We're headed down a path that's not good.
Yes, and I flee Soviet Union 28 years ago, lived in California for 22 years, flee California, and now I'm in Idaho. And I don't want to pack again and try to flee somewhere which no other place on this planet better than United States so far.
If we were to lose the next election, being Biden getting in there, somebody Democratic, it's just, we're going to have to do something to protect our state entirely, because I think most people...
Maybe we have to close our own borders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to have to think of ways to pass things on the state level in order to protect our way of living here, because it's just going to go
Yeah,
downhill.
because Trudeau, they are now allowing the borders to be open now without all this paperwork, red tape going in for COVID. When I was in Coeur d'Alene, I ran in this one kid. I didn't know what was going on, but Walmart, I don't know are they allowed to allow somebody just sit there and use the computer? Because I know this kid was illegal. I guess he must have been, because he was talking to somebody real loud on the phone saying, yeah, they're giving us money. And he was on doing a FaceTime or whatever on the computer.
Walmart allows
everything. So they were doing that. So it's happening. That was a couple of years ago. I mean, just right after. I was like, are you kidding me? Did I hear that right? Because I wasn't sure what was going on. But I wasn't there.
80% of the criminals arrested
Yeah.
in Coeur d'Alene, 80% of the criminal arrests in Coeur d'Alene are not, from outside the country, they're from Spokane.
Yeah.
So the criminals know where to go.
I'm from Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
Okay, so they know where to go.
It's
Yes.
right there on that border too.
I'm
so.
fully in favor of building a wall.